My background is definitely not linear at all. I don't think any of my random career paths could have led me here. I never really knew what I wanted to do, honestly. And when COVID happened, I was working in hospitality, and my cousin, who I'm very good friends with, he, on the day of the first lockdown, he broke his leg and I lost my job because there was my hotels shut down. And yeah, he couldn't walk and needed someone to help take care of him. So he had to move in with his parents, and I offered to come help. And during that time, it was full on lockdown. Everyone was just watching Netflix and chilling. And after that got a little bit boring, we started just trying to learn and educate ourselves and see what fascinated us and what inspired us. And I read this book called How to Change Your Mind, and I had just Yes, exactly. And I felt like I had discovered this world that not very many people were talking about. And I started looking into functional mushrooms too, because that book really highlights psychedelic mushrooms. And I started looking into functional mushrooms, and I was so fascinated. It was like this whole world of health and wellness and nature that people weren't talking about. So I turned to Jake, my cousin, and I said, "Do you want to start growing these mushrooms with me?" And he said, "Yes." So we started growing lion's mane, and really just became so obsessed with mushrooms and their health benefits and wanted to share it with our community. And we looked around at what was available, and everything was powders and tinctures and capsules. And we wanted to make something that would be fun to take, something that we wanted to take. And Jake had the idea of making gummies. So we started making gummies and giving them to our friends and family. And when people were telling us the amazing health benefits and how this was changing their lives, we decided to make it into a company and share it with more people.
What did you do at first? You said you're lion's mane. Did you just like saute up some lion's mane and eat it for dinner, or like what did you do?
Yeah, we would totally do that. We worked with a mycologist who would help make extracts and things like that. And we were just really experimenting with growing techniques and all that kind of stuff.
What did you notice? Maybe you had taken products from the store before, like tinctures or pills, but your own homegrown stuff. Like, what did you notice? Was it a lot more powerful? What were the effects?
Yeah, totally. So it was definitely more powerful. And we realized that so we learned as you're growing the mushrooms, you're learning so much about them. And we were using the fruiting body when we were experimenting. And a lot of companies don't use the fruiting body. They use the mycelium. And when you are growing the mushrooms, so when you're outside of nature, I mean, in nature too, but when you're outside of nature, the mycelium needs some food to grow on. And in nature, it's the soil. But here you do kind of like a rice or a grain or something like that. And for most mushrooms. And when you're looking at the mycelium eating this substrate, this grain, you're seeing how much grain is actually in there. It's so starch heavy, and a lot of companies out there are taking this starch and mycelium mixture and they're packaging up and selling it as a mushroom product. And when you see how much starch goes in there, you really realize, wow, you're really not getting so many of these benefits. And I want to backtrack a little bit because I kind of just jumped into that concept and a lot of people aren't familiar. So when it comes to mushrooms, there's the fruiting body, which is the part of the mushroom that grows above the ground. And then there's the mycelium, which is this underground root structure of the mushroom. And the fruiting body is where the majority of the bioavailable compounds are held. And then the mycelium, while it has benefits, it gets really diluted by all of this starch. So that was also one of the reasons why ours were so much more powerful, was because we were using the fruiting body of the mushroom.
Well, the name holds a clue. Like, look at a peach tree. I'm not just going to bite into the bark or eat a branch.
Right.
Eat the fruit.
Right.
The peach.
Exactly.
All, the nutrients and, the new hope for the plant and the seeds and all that go into the fruiting body. So it makes sense why it's called a fruiting body. So the mushroom, it makes sense it would contain a lot of the good stuff.
Exactly. Yes. So that was really interesting. And when you see it with your eyes, you're just kind of like, wow, I'm a visual person. So it was really interesting to watch that process and just be like, duh, like I'm not going to be using this to formulate my product. I'm going to be using the fruiting body where all the good stuff is. So that was really cool. And also growing your own food and growing your own just anything is a really interesting experience. I had never really done it before, and you just connect to what you're growing and you learn so much about it. And there's so many you mess up so many times and it's humbling, and it's a really interesting experience, just that whole thing in general.